Hi.
Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. My cat Draco is joining us today. As you can see, he is out, so I'm not gonna move him because he's just so darn cute. But today we are talking about the Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This book had to have been like the book of book talk last year, just like the book of books in general. I feel like the Song of Achilles and It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover were like the two most raved about, loved books of 2021. And you know, I was really excited to read this book, and I think as you can tell by my demeanor, the tone of my voice, I'm just kind of conflicted about it. But yeah, as always, like, I just want to talk through it with you guys, give you my thoughts. I feel like this is going to be a bit of a rambly one, but yeah, let's just get into it. So for those of you that don't know, the Song of Achilles is basically, I want to say a modern day retelling, but it really isn't. It's truly just a retelling of the story of Achilles and Patroclus. Achilles is a fairly well-known character within Greek mythology, within lore, if you will, and I am personally a huge fan of Greek mythology. I always have been for like as long as I can remember. I read all the Percy Jackson books. I did projects on it in elementary school, and I got so into it. I love all the Greek mythology stories. Like, I feel fairly well versed in it, to be quite frank. So when this book blew up, I was so excited to read it. I'm like, oh my god, a romance, but it's like based off of this like Greek legend. I can't wait. And I tried to pick this book up back when everybody was raving about it. You can see on my channel, it's like one of my first videos ever. It's like a Barnes & Noble haul. I think this was like maybe in April or something of last year that I originally picked this book up. And it took me a few months to start to read it, but once I did, I was so ready for it. I started it, I got about 50 pages in, and I, for the life of me, could not get into it. Like, I don't know, I think I was on the edge of a reading slump, and I was like, just not feeling it. Like, the story was just very slow for me, very boring. A lot of people, because it is like a Greek legend, I know this, like a lot of people have really long, complicated names that all sound really similar to each other, and I was just trying to get through those first 50 pages, couldn't do it. I had to put it down. But I continued to see people rave about it, and I was like, let me try to pick this back up. I tried once again. I got 25 more pages in. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So then I stopped for another like several months, and basically about a month or so ago now, maybe verging on 2, I had an Audible credit, and I'm like, I'm just gonna start this book over. I want to start fresh. I'm so determined to read it and love it because everyone and their mother seems to, and I was like, I'm gonna listen to the audiobook. I sampled it, and the narrator of the audiobook, like, it was so good. Like, it sounded very like old-timey, like the accent and everything was so good, and I was like, okay, if I haven't been able to be gripped by this book, like reading it, surely this audiobook will do it for me. And so I started the audiobook, and I was on a very long road trip. It was like a 5-hour drive, so I got to listen to the first 5 hours of it. Essentially, this story, like I said, is a retelling of Achilles and Patroclus. It's told from the point of view of Patroclus. He essentially is the son of this king, and the king was never impressed by him, never proud of him. Patroclus is like a very kind of like small boy. He's not like big and strong. He's not like a fighter. He doesn't have like the bones of a leader within him. Like, but regardless of that, like from a very young, far too young age, his father was always very hard on him and never was proud of him and never pushed him to even succeed because he was just so hard on him. Like, it was already embedded in his brain that he was like not good enough from a very young age. And basically what ends up happening is Patroclus ends up getting banished from his kingdom because basically an accident happens that he's responsible for. It's completely an accident, but it results in something awful, and everyone demands that he be banished. So he is then banished away to, I read this book and I think it's Peleus, or is that the name of the king? It doesn't matter. He goes away to this other land, and basically the king whose land he goes to, whose castle he lives in, his son is Achilles. We meet Achilles, and he goes there, Patroclus goes there, I believe he's like 12 or something when he goes there, maybe 14. They're very young is the point when they first meet, and Achilles is a very interesting boy, right? He's very different, and you know, Patroclus is going through it right now. Like, he's had a very hard time. He's been banished from his kingdom, from his family. He's in this new place where he doesn't know anybody, and for whatever reasons I still truly don't understand, Achilles takes a liking to him, and they take a liking to each other, and so they kind of befriend one another, and Achilles invites him to come and stay with him in his room and have his own bed in his bed chamber, so he doesn't have to sleep with all these other sort of boys that are there. And we basically just like see him and Achilles like have this friendship over a very long period of time, and we learn that Achilles, like, there's a prophecy. The thing about Achilles that I didn't mention is he is basically a demigod. His mother is a goddess. She's like a sea goddess. So he is like, to some extent, sort of not immortal, but he's like a demigod, and he's really like powerful, and there's basically a prophecy that Achilles is going to be the most powerful warrior that ever lived. And pretty much like this is the story of like Helen of Troy and the war in Troy. Basically, we get to see Achilles go off to train with Chiron, which is he's a huge guy in Greek mythology. He trained all the biggest heroes like Hercules. Like, if you read The Lightning Thief, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, like Chiron's a big part of that. Like, he is basically like a centaur that trains warriors to be the best they can be. So like, we see Achilles has to go and do this, but like him and Patroclus can't be apart from one another. Achilles' mother isn't happy about their friendship at this point. It's still a friendship. But then as they go to train with Chiron, like, eventually it is revealed over time that like Achilles and Patroclus obviously feel more for each other. What they have is a very like soulmate sort of connection, you know, because they've known each other from such a young age. Achilles is even though he is like a prince, in a lot of ways he feels very isolated. There's not many people that like care for him, just for him, for who he is, and Patroclus obviously doesn't really have anybody, and so they've found this like companionship and this love between each other. And I mean, there's some beautiful moments that happen. Honestly, like the beginning of the book, like the very beginning, I was really bored and trudging my way through it. I thought it was really slow. The biggest thing for me, I feel, within this story is just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like very like poetic and artsy, but at the same time just so dry. Like, everything that is written is just like, especially the dialogue. Oh my god, the dialogue was so dry. Like, it literally would be like, Patroclus, would you like to sit at my table? All right. We go to sit down at the table. Are you hungry? I don't know. Would you like some food? All right. Is it good? It is good. How are you doing today? I am well. Like, that is literally every conversation. It's just the dialogue. Like, nobody ever said anything. Like, there was lots of internal monologue with Patroclus, but I swear, like, every conversation there was like nothing said. Like, it was just so dry and dull. And it's like, I get that they're soulmates or whatever because they've spent so much time together, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. There were parts where it was really beautiful and I did like feel this connection, and I did really like, my favorite part of the whole story was like when they were with Chiron learning to train. Like, I loved all of that. I loved the build up, like right around that middle part. Like, that's when I was really like, okay, I think I get it. Like, I think I get why people like this, even though I still feel like the writing style isn't for me. Like, I get it. I can understand it. But then the freaking war started, right? Helen gets torn away, and now like everybody's at war. The Greeks are at war with the Trojans, and I don't even understand. I'm not a big person on like war books, okay? Like, in general, I don't love the war aspects of books, and I obviously knew that was like gonna be a part of this story, but I didn't realize it was gonna be like so much of the book. I just think what I generally don't love about like books with war is it's just a lot of like sitting around, strategizing, we're in a tent, we're talking, sitting around, waiting for something to happen. Okay, now there's a battle, he's come back, he's all covered in blood and dirty. Like, okay, what's our next steps? Okay, we sit in a tent some more, some battles happen, some people die. Like, when it's a long, drawn out war story, it's just so like, I found it to be so boring. Like, I don't like, so, like, I think it's hard to say because I was doing the audiobook, but it's like, I feel like the last half of this book was them just at this war, and this war took place over like nearly 20 years. Like, it went on for so long, and just like so much, I'm definitely like missing things here and there, but Achilles does end up becoming like the greatest warrior. But like the thing about him as well is it is prophesied he's going to be the greatest warrior, but it's also prophesied that he's going to basically die very young. So we like know that it's coming, that Achilles is going to eventually die, right? And I don't know, I don't want to get like spoilery, but this book just like didn't do it for me. I don't know what to say. Like, there were some parts that were really beautiful. There were a couple of quotes. Like, I can literally name on my, like, count on my fingers the amount of times that I'm like, okay, this book, I was listening to it and I was like, aw. Like, there were a couple of moments that were very cute, but it's like, the story that I know of Achilles, right, is the Achilles heel. And the whole deal with that is like Achilles is supposed to like be brought to the underworld, dipped in the river Styx to become like invincible, but he's dipped in with everything but his heel. And then what eventually is supposed to end up killing him is he gets like stabbed or an arrow or whatever in the heel, and that's how he dies, because that was like his one point of weakness, right? So I was like, when I was going into this book, I was expecting like a fun mythological adventure. I thought we were gonna like go to the underworld. That didn't happen. I mean, we definitely learn about his Achilles heel, which again, I don't feel like this is much of a spoiler. Like, it's just his pride, simply. Like, that is his Achilles heel. Like, he is just too proud of a person for his own good, and it ends up in a lot of ways being his downfall. And yeah, I will say, this book was such a roller coaster because I was trying so hard to love it, because I know so many people do love it. I know a lot of people that this is like their favorite book. And I just truly don't understand. Like, I'm not here to like shame people for what they love. Like, I hate that. I hate when people are like, that's your favorite book, wow. But like, just for me, like, this just it didn't do it for me. Like, the very ending, when it got to the end, I was kind of like, wow. Like, there was a twist that I did not see coming. And when it did, I was like, oh my God. And then the very, very end, especially if you're listening to an audiobook on Audible, like, you know, the end is always very dramatic because they play some type of music. So when it ended, I was kind of like, oh, okay, like, wow. But if I'm being quite honest, I didn't really like this book. And I'm very sorry about it, because I know so many of you have like asked me to read this, have recommended it, but it was just, I mean, I think Madeline Miller is an incredible author. I think she's brilliant, like, for writing this whole book, like all the little parts and pieces she had to form and put together, and names she had to remember, and all the things she had to do. I think she's an incredible writer that I'm simply just not cultured enough to understand. Yeah, it was just dry, it was just boring for me, and it's just clearly not my thing. But I know a lot of people that love it. If you're one of the people that love it, not trying to take away from that, but I'm just here to give my opinion, because this is what I do on my channel. I gotta be honest with you guys, and just simply didn't do it for me. But yeah, if you guys have read Song of Achilles, very nicely put your thoughts down in the comments. Please don't hate me. I really do apologize. I promise you I wanted to love it. But yeah, that is it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.